October 28th, 2019. This was the day that birthed one of the most controversial videos on HITC Sport. A video that was made to age like Chandler from Friends. You know, the guy who currently looks like a melted candle. Honestly, Ralph Hasenhüttl, hand in your notice in the morning. Because clearly you can't motivate a football team to save your life. This is a man who just guided your club to the most embarrassing ever defeat. And you want to give him your backing? Since that night, let's just take a look at some of the more recent comments on that video.
Who's here when Southampton beat Liverpool? Southampton are laughing at you now. This video aged well. You look so stupid and I'm all here for it. Waiting for the apology video. We getting an apology video or nah?
Hello, welcome to HITC Sport, and right, well, look at that. Look at what's happened here. Apology. Usually you might apologize for backing over your neighbor's cat, not for accurately dumping on a bunch of professionals who conceded a goal on average every 10 minutes. And it wasn't just me. Do we not remember the state of Southampton fans on that night back in 2019?
The club is finished, mate. That total disgrace of a performance. 9 goals at home you concede.
Christ above, that fella probably went home that night and just punched a bowl of lasagna to death. Yes, okay, Southampton have since recovered well after that horrendous 9-0 defeat at home to Leicester. But it's the very next season and they've done it again. So really, how thick is that scab? Just pick it a little bit and suddenly they capitulate all over again. Webster's dictionary defines the word fluke as an unlikely chance occurrence. Right, so a bit like jumping off a bridge and landing on your feet, or managing to walk around Magaluf for 20 minutes and not feel the immediate need to shower. Well, here we are 14 months later, and Ralph Hasenhüttl is presiding over a second 9-0 defeat. I think this proves it wasn't a fluke. Christ, women across the world could have birthed a child on the night of that first 9-0, and they'd realistically expect the kid to be 20 years of age before he has to go through that for himself. No. These babies haven't even learned how to talk yet, and still they get another 9-0. Oh, by the way, lads, try that 500,000 subscribers. Anytime would be nice. If you're new and you'd like to hit that subscribe button to see more content like this. And that's enough of that, let's just get back into the video. I cannot imagine how soul-destroying one 9-0 defeat must feel like. It's like the footballing gods fighting a Southampton fan, reaching into his chest, pulling out his heart to use as some sort of hacky sack in the clouds. The fans who actually paid to watch the first, not even get massacre. Again, paying for that. It must be like paying a homeless man to repeatedly punch you in the scrotum. And now this week though, at least the fans weren't forced to make a trip to rainy Manchester on a piss-soaked bus. And thank God for that, because any Southampton fan coming in the door at 3 AM after that, they'd probably lose the will to live. But still, any Southampton fans just sitting on the couch and watching that complete and utter desecration, where do they go from here? How are they going to continue to function as a man? Yeah, they'll climb into bed with their wife, but just soak their pillows with tears and blood. Because I'm convinced watching your team concede 20 goals over 2 matches in the space of 2 years. It's a bit like walking in your grandmother squatting on the toilet. Sure, the first time, you probably need weeks of therapy to get over it. But if it happens a second time within 2 years, that's the end of humanity in your eyes. It would probably cause you a lifelong phobia of ever walking into a bathroom ever again. So the same here. How are Southampton fans supposed to trust this isn't going to happen next season? A 9-0 defeat should be a once-in-a-lifetime car crash for any football fan. But being served at 2 seasons on the bounce, it's like having to go through 2 separate divorces. Listen, I realise Ralph Hasenhüttl has done a great job for this club, and the fact he has the wafer-thin emotions of a pregnant X Factor finalist, it sort of makes him a pretty likeable guy. Christ above, the guy's so emotional. He probably bursts into tears when he realises there's no milk in his fridge for his shreddies. But I'm sorry, presiding over the heaviest Premier League defeat, not once but twice, and in just over a year, you can't just brush that aside because he's a nice guy. 3 weeks ago, this guy was odds-on favourite for the Arsenal job. Now, 4 straight defeats later, he's now more likely to get sacked than Mikel Arteta. All I see on social media is sympathy for the man.
Oh, poor Ralph. How could the players do this to him?
Lads, he's not f***ing Ralph Wiggum. This is a man on £6 million a year. And I'm sorry, who picks those players? Whose idea was it to put Alex Jankewitz in midfield? He might be a talented player, but the facts are he's a 19-year-old who just handed in a transfer request. Do you really think his head's going to be in the right place? I wouldn't dare accuse him of purposely trying to puncture Scott McTominay's femoral artery in his thigh. No, but again, if this guy truly wanted to quit the club, then his head is going to be all over the place. Again, if you were the manager of a local zoo and a disgruntled employee told you that he wanted to quit, you wouldn't then put him in charge of feeding the dangerous chimpanzees. That's how you'd end up with Planet of the Apes 4.
Romeo and Diallo out. Step forward, Alexander Jankewitz.
I mean, he definitely took a step forward. It was just straight into a Scottish man's thigh. 6 inches to the left, and poor old Scott could forget about ever impregnating anything other than his own couch. Christ above, suddenly you'd have genitals resembling a home-cooked shepherd's pie, or like a Subway chicken tikka if you let the pigeons have their way with it for 30 minutes. But what an easy night's pay. The man runs around for about 70 seconds, meaning he might have burnt the calories of one Milky Way, and then just gets to have an hour-long bubble bath while his teammates do all the work. This guy was born on Christmas Day, and he plays for a team nicknamed the Saints, so clearly the fans must have thought this was a sign that he was the Swiss version of Jesus, more like the Swiss version of a busted dishwasher. Listen, I don't want to be too mean on the kid, but I can't overlook the fact that Scott McTominay's thigh looks like it's just being dragged through a meat grinder. This was the boys' heat map. Good Christ, it looks like something you might find scribbled on the back of a toilet wall. But I'll just finish off on Jankewitz by saying this. As bad as that tackle was, he is just a teenage child. He's of a different generation. The type who grew up on High School Musical and Corey in the House. A fella who only stopped getting gifts off Santa in 2013. Maybe the modern day youth coach does tell his players to just cripple the opposition and to shove as many opposition midfielders into wheelchairs as quick as humanly possible. But most likely I'll just put it down to teenage inexperience. I mean, Christ, when I was his age, I was searching for a girlfriend in an Argos catalogue. Yeah. You ever tried to look yourself in the mirror after trying to romance your Hoover? But listen, I don't care that you played the game with 10 men. There has been about 600 red cards in Premier League history, and yet no manager has ever seen his team concede 9 twice. I know he's done well for the most part, but you can't just overlook a pattern of 2 9-0 defeats. It's a shocking clue that there's still a weak-minded aura surrounding this club, that they'll just capitulate when the going gets tough. Yes, having 9 players on the pitch is a challenge, and it doesn't help when Mike Dean refs a match like he's got eyeballs made of cheese. But that doesn't give you the right to then concede 9. There is a thing called game management. For example, don't wait until you're 6-0 down to make your first sub. And don't worry, don't think the board doesn't deserve some blame for this either. If you're an ambitious Premier League team, you should never be bringing a matchday squad to Old Trafford with a bench full of teenagers. Honestly, they have the strength and depth of a squashed egg sandwich. Of the 9 players waiting patiently on that bench, 7 of them had a combined 10 appearances to their name. 10! It wasn't so much a bench, it was like an outing for a local school tour. Nathan Redmond was also on that bench, and honestly, you must have felt like that one creepy old man in the creche. What sort of discussions would have taken place on that bench? Who had the most TikTok followers? Whose mother had the best OnlyFans? Who was the first one to grow a pubic hair on their balls? This was the cavalry waiting in reserve at Old Trafford. The likes of Ryan Finnegan and Kegs Chalk. People who probably only learned how to walk in 2006. Inflicting that nightmare result on your fans once is bad enough. Twice is an absolute disgrace. Portsmouth, they're a team who recently conceded 4 at home to Hull in League One, and yet those fans are probably laughing and pointing at Southampton this week. Don't even start and tell me that Bednarek, a red card was never a red card. It doesn't matter. I don't care that Che Adams' goal should have stood. Yes, you're right, things are going to go against you in games sometimes, but that doesn't explain why you concede 9 human goals in a single match. Danny Ings is a top-class striker, a guy who's determinedly battled back from injury when he was on the brink of becoming the next Dean Ashton left to rot on his couch. But sadly, he's now the first striker in Premier League history to lose by 9 goals twice. Is that really fair on him? Although, Angus Gunn must have spent his Tuesday night crying with laughter, because after being scapegoated, the one to be immediately ostracized after that 9-0 defeat in 2019, he's the only one who's never given a chance to recover his career. Now though, you see the successor, Alex McCarthy, suffer the same fate. So yes, shout out to Angus Gunn. But listen, playing in this division, these players are not only living out their childhood dream, but millions of people across the globe. I think of those poor children forced to drink bowls of toilet water on the outskirts of Chernobyl, or the poverty-ridden children huddling around a black and white telly to watch Match of the Day. Not even them, even me. I'll tell you for a fact, if a witch doctor came to me and said that I could become a Premier League footballer, with the only caveat being that she would need me to yank out each one of my teeth, oh, then I would gladly spend the rest of my life drinking Weetabix through a straw if I could just claw myself 5 minutes on the pitch. And yet Southampton, when they have a bad day at the office, they just seem to down tools. They don't care if the dignity of their club is scattered across the Old Trafford turf like a snotty Kleenex. They don't care if their own fans will be laughed at again and again and again, forced to relive the nightmare they tried so hard to move on from 2 years ago. An early sending off does not give you the right to collapse like your whole team is made of Lego. This is a good Man United team, but still, Sheffield United travelled to Old Trafford last week, and they only conceded once. Man United have only scored more than 3 goals in a game twice this season. When it gets to 6-0, just chuck 9 players behind the ball. Desperately defend for dear life. They should have been willing to run through a train. anything to prevent the ignominy of 9-0. The most haunting and traumatic scoreline in the club's recent history. 7 of the Southampton players that played were on that pitch in 2019, and 9 of them were in the same matchday squad. So really, just an utter disgrace. Listen, I'll admit it, at Sunday League level, I've been on the receiving end of 9-0 pummelings too. The only difference being I play for a team where the right back might as well have feet made out of cheese puffs, and our senior striker has a beer belly the size of a flower pot. We have an excuse, but a bunch of Premier League professionals supposedly aiming for Europe? Disgrace! Anyway, that's it. Let me know in the comments what you think. What do you think? Alright, am I being too harsh on Ralph Hasenhüttl and Southampton? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and as always, I'll talk to you in a while.